Hi there, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Tina from Tinaheals.com, and if you have Mars and Sagittarius, then this is your video. So Mars is a nocturnal planet. He's the masculine, the yang, our action principle. It is why we get up in the morning and do something. The color of Mars is red. The day is Tuesday. The astrological hours are the 1st and the 8th astrological hour, and the metal he rules is iron. He rules over all kinds of knives, actually, scalpels, from soldiers to the military junta to surgeons, as well as butchers. Mars rules all over those people. So you see the vast expression of Mars. Mars is nocturnal, so he does well in a night chart, not so good in a day chart. If you have your sun at the bottom of your chart, then you have a night chart. At the top, you have a day chart. So Mars is excessive heat, and there is a dangerous component to Mars. Think of the color red. You know, we use it for danger, right? Mars rules Aries and Scorpio, and is in detriment in Libra and Taurus to Venus ruled signs, and he's exalted in Capricorn, 28 degrees of Capricorn, and is in fall in lunar ruled or the moon ruled Cancer, 28 degrees of Cancer. So Mars, a few keywords for Mars, and of course Sagittarius is mutable, impressionable, changeable, adaptable, ruled by Jupiter, and of course it is a part of the fire triplicity. It is fire, mutable fire, and Jupiter is known as the greater benefic and Mars is the lesser malefic. So this is definitely the placement of the sportsman, because Sagittarius is just so outdoorsy and so sportsy that this is the placement of hikers, trekkers, people who climb up Mount Everest and people who go on adventures, the quest, because Sagittarius is always on the hero's quest. Okay, if you look at the leaf of Sagittarius, it used to be a centaur, so half human, half bestial. Immediately you know that there's an imaginal component to Sagittarius, fantasy component, because you know the centaur is not real, and he's half bestial and half human. So there's Sagittarius part of it is very humane. So Mars here becomes very humane because he takes on the garb of Jupiter, the personality of Jupiter. Mars in Sagittarius expresses himself through Jupiter, right? And he's great at climbing a tree as well as reading a book, if this mutable, fiery energy is grounded. And grounding Mars is not easy because his Venus gives, Mars takes. And Mars is separation and Venus is union. Venus is marriage and Mars is divorce. And Sagittarius is anyway not a sign to really commit. And the kind of lovers Mars and Sagittarius guys will be are very different. Even if you have very experimental, very open, not judgmental, okay, but they can have a know-it-all attitude because, you know, in their pursuit for truth, sometimes Mars in Sag may think that their truth is the only truth, and to hell with the other ways. Now, a few keywords of Mars is power, and Sagittarius deals with higher education. So power through higher education, well-balanced Mars, right? Power through information, knowledge, how Mercury gathers data. It is a job of Jupiter to assimilate them, integrate them, because Jupiter is the principle of gnosis. He's known as Brihaspati in the Vedic system, and Brihaspati is the guru of all the gods and all the planets. So here Mars takes on a very elevated, very philosophical outlook, because this is the archetype, this is the sign, Sagittarius is the archetype of the philosopher. Okay, and Mars wants to travel long distance. This is the sign that deals with long distance travels. And Mars wants to work with foreigners, because Sagittarius deals with foreigners. courage, the courage to travel, the courage to experience new things. And the glyph of Sagittarius is an arrow. That means it speaks of directionality. Where are we going next? So Mars here can be quite the wanderer, never grounding themselves, never settling down. So always on the next big adventure, the Indiana Jones archetype, always on the next big adventure. So very courageous, of course. And if you look at strength, yes, strength, because Jupiter gives tremendous optimism. And from tremendous optimism comes strength. Okay, something maybe Saturnian pessimism brings a different type of strength, right? If Saturn is the root, Jupiter is the branches. You need both. You can't do without the one. Like you need unification, you also need separation to realize that unification. That's why Mars and Venus are at polarities, right? So rage, tremendous rage at being, at being considered a foreigner with Mars and Sagittarius, because you want to be truly a part of the global village. And this need to come first, this can be exacerbated because Jupiter is also about, thinks no end of himself. Sagittarius can be very brash, and not a bad thing, because you have the Jupiterian gnosis behind you, so you're vibing off that. Okay, even if you've not developed yourself, in a sense you have that Jupiterian vibe, the joie de vivre, the jovialness of it all, and the interest in, and Jupiter literally protects the earth from thousands of harmful asteroids. So it's literally a protector, but not as crabbish as Mars and Cancer. But Mars and Sagittarius can be a protector of the earth, because the sole ruler of Sagittarius is the earth, the only sign that has such an intimate connection with the earth. So, immediately you look at competitiveness in a different way. These are the people who will not cut your head off, but will, play a game with you and probably win. Mars in Sagittarius, very, not so much of a strategist like say Mars in Scorpio, but just their joie de vivre gets them through, their irrepressible humor, because Jupiter is very jovial and has a great humor. So Mars in Sagittarius is definitely a placement for a comedian. Not necessarily a dark comedian, but just someone who's very rambunctious, very, large personality. And there's a fantasy component, like the centaur, he's imaginal, right? And even when you look at the element of fire, it is fire that is connected to an imaginal plane. And air somehow communicates it to the bottom, and water retains memory of it, and earth grounds it. So, this is very interesting to see how the fire plays out. It's connected to this imaginal fantasy realm. And Mars can be, of course, very tuned in, very, very into this fantasy. And also don't forget the galactic center, from where all information originates, is at the very end of Sagittarius. It is the center of the Milky Way. So having your Mars here, somehow you're tuning in to that galactic center. You're getting information about how you should take action from a source that is beyond any source of the solar system. You're tuning into something very, very profound. If you have anything after 25 degrees of Sagittarius, you're feeling this. And Mars here, you're definitely feeling this, right? You are very, very tuned into this. Need to dominate, yes, in verbal, oratorial, competitions. You probably need to dominate. There could be a show-off element to this, a brashness that Mars brings. And Sagittarius is anyway very brash and can call a spade without flinching. They're not so prone to looking at other people's emotions and how they react. And Mars here can just do that freely and say whatever, okay? And especially if there's a Mercury conjunct that Mars, then bam, it's out. Mars rules of the water triplicity, and in The sign of Sagittarius, he's definitely about seeking the higher truth, if you ask me. And in this sign of Sagittarius, Mars takes on the quest of the hero, and he's ready to go through the whole journey of the hero, because life is larger than life for Mars and Sagittarius. They don't have that the horse with the blinkers. They can't be the horse with the blinkers. They need to see the larger picture. They may not be great with detailing or how to arrive at that larger picture. That's something they need to work with and ground that Mars and express it in a healthy way, because you have a lot of energy. So doing something, traveling, like I said, being the guide, because the Sagittarius loves history and myth making. So there's this component to Sagittarius that can really come out with Mars and Sagittarius. If you can take people out for very special tours, that's very possible. Mars here can be overzealous, of course. Like, as I said, Jupiter is about the pursuit of the truth. And that sometimes Jupiter expands. So, that can be expanded to such an understanding that you feel like you know it and nobody else does. So this is where problems can occur. If you're tuning into that imaginal place that the mutable fire, Jupiterian fire is connecting you to, then you're, tuning into the Martian myth making and the male myth making. It's a very active way of myth making. And writing can be great with Mars and Sagittarius, believe me, because this is truly the place for a storyteller, Mars in Sagittarius. Because if you have a Mercury there, yes, but the Mars will give you the experiences that you want, so you sit down and you can write it out. But again, Sagittarius can be humane as well as bestial. So, too much of that Mars energy, Mars not grounded, could mean, rudeness, standoffishness, snobbery, cultural elitism, bigotry, zealotry, and all of this. Okay, this could occur because, Jupiter, as the ancients have said, that yes, the benefics are the benefics because they tend towards moderation, and malefics are malefics because they tend towards extremes. But in many cases, the benefics have shown up as a malefic influence or a negative influence, and the negative planets have actually given positive results. So it is really what energies you're vibing off, and every energy is dualistic. And Sagittarius, being mutable fire, scatters very quickly. It adapts very quickly. So this is a Mars that is very adaptable, very flexible. There's nothing like, mutable signs are the most flexible signs of the zodiac, and no one can compete with them on that, okay? Because they're just really very flexible with what they do. They can change very quickly, okay? So being very assertive, yes, can be very positive but also negative, where you just want to assert for the sake of asserting. And no, Mars here is not really only interested in power play, because this is the space of the philosopher, So Mars does tend to feed off the Jupiterian optimism here, and he does tend to partake in the myth-making and the philosophical oeuvres of Sagittarius. But Mars, it scathes you, it cuts you, it burns you, it separates you. It's, Sagittarius is used to the fire because it is fire itself. But Mars brings about this quickening, and this quickening sometimes can be too much, and Sagittarius may find it difficult to ground this Mars energy. Otherwise, go trek, climb the Everest. Wow, you have the energy. And read Jacques Derrida while you're at it, or Godard on Godard, or Tarkovsky while you're reading Kant. you know, or a book on Buddhism, Vajrayana. That's where you can go, okay? Thank you so much. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and let me know what you think. Thank you. And book a reading.